Hi, it's Joe McNally, and I'm here for Kelby Online Training. We're going to do something a little bit different with this particular, installment of in-the-field lighting instruction. We're actually going to devote this entire session to a single piece of equipment, which is very unusual. Reason being, a couple of reasons. Let's put it this way. The piece of equipment is a new kind of borderline or frontier from small flash into big flash. It lives in between the two. It's called the Elinchrom Quadra, and it's pretty interesting, some of the technology, some of the possibilities. A couple of things you should know. The Elinchrom folks obviously are pretty happy we're talking about this unit, so they've contributed to the funding of this segment. Another thing about me, I'm not a Consumer Reports. I don't do across-the-board evaluations of all sorts of gear. I just kind of use what I use, and if it's successful or not, or whatever it might be in the field, I kind of tell people about it, and that's what this particular segment is about. We're going to take the unit out, kick it around a little bit in the field, see what it does, see what the possibilities are. The cool thing about this particular flash unit is that it's 400 watt seconds. It lives just beyond the edge of where we are with small flash in terms of power, except it also has some of the beauties and benefits of small flash in that it's light and fast and portable. Hi, let's talk about the gear we're going to use in the field today, specifically the Quadra Flash. Mark Assman is here with us. Great to have him because as a technical director in the background of this particular video that we're doing, I can think of no one better because he knows this particular flash unit better than anybody. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Let's get into it.
Sure.
The Quadra, talk to us.
Oh, the Quadra is for those who might not know, is a small battery pack, 400 watt second unit. Let me show you how small it is. I'm going to pull it out of the bag. This is the actual pack itself, really small and lightweight, and I'm going to grab the battery. This is the battery, and we might as well show you exactly how they go together. We just match them together, and we've got a battery pack.
I've been using this for a bit now. I mean, it's kind of like the size of a lunchbox. The thing about it that is attracting me in terms of using it in the field for jobs that I have is it's light, it's fast, but it's also powerful. 400 watt seconds, right? 400
watt seconds. The pack itself also is what's known as asymmetrical, meaning that we have two ports here. Port A will give you 2/3 of the power in the pack, and port B will give you 1/3 of the power in the pack. So we have perfect symmetrical lighting if you want to do symmetrical lighting with two heads in the pack.
So you can run two heads simultaneously, A port, B port. Basically, the unit itself couples to a flash head, what again is a huge factor for me, traveling, shooting, working. The flash head itself is about 1/2 pound.
Exactly, 1/2 pound. 1/2 pound, and a very, very small and lightweight. I'm going to put this down and bring out the flash head just so you can have a quick look. So this is our flash head, the Quadra flash head. And there are two different heads. This is the A head. A in Elinchrom parlance stands for action, and there's also an S head, standard. And the difference is action is for freezing, fast motion, sports, things like that, freezing water droplets, those types of things. And S head is more for portraiture type of work, and people who do architectural work, that type of thing.
Okay.
So these are very small and lightweight. They have removable reflectors. What's really nice about these is there's also a optional part called the Quadra reflector adapter, and with this piece married to this head, I can now mount just about every one of the Elinchrom modifiers that are available on the market. So you've got a lot of different variety of light that you can get out of these units. They just marry in like this, and we're set to go. We can put any of our modifiers right on here.
Thing about, for me, what's crucial to me as a photographer is, even though the head's really small, the flash tube and the orientation of the flash tube is the same as it is in its bigger brothers, like the Elinchrom Ranger, 1100 watt seconds. Now, in a situation where you don't want to bring a Ranger with you, say it's too much of a commitment, it's too heavy, you're going a fair distance, you have to travel light, as oftentimes is the situation now with photographers, this has become for me a real serious backup kind of plan, because it is that that middle ground between a big flash and a small flash. All right, so quality of light's super important to me. The cool thing about the small flash head is with this, this ring adapter here, I can put on a really great light shaping tool. I've been using a lot the Deep Octa. I've been using it, or accustomed to using it, with my bigger flashes, but I find that I'm getting the same quality and an awful lot of power and performance out of a much smaller flash head. So that's kind of cool.
Right.
On this series of shoots, we're going to demonstrate the Quadra in the field in action. We've got a few things lined up. We've got a SWAT team sniper, police officer, highly trained, going to be in the woods. We've got a bike racer with a high-speed motorcycle. We've got a ballerina. Okay, we've got kind of a street fashion thing going on. We're going to take a look at a variety of things, from fairly complicated sort of multi-flash productions to just run and gun in the street, and see how the unit keeps pace with us. Okay, just as a note here, the weapon has been completely safed. The officer we're working with here is also a firearms instructor, and so prior to doing this particular video, the weapons were double-checked, rechecked, etc., completely empty and completely safe. So in this situation, me being downrange of the weapon, there's no potential harm in that, because the weapon is completely neutralized.
Because we're doing a shoot involving firearms and trying to make it as realistic as possible, we realize we have to kind of handle certain safety features of a rifle. One of the basic rules of firearm safety is never point a weapon at anything you don't intend to destroy or kill. And the nature of the shoot, with Joe being downrange, kind of forcing an interaction that generally would not happen in any kind of firearm scenes. This weapon has been checked several times by myself, as well as other range safety firearms instructors, and it is a safe weapon, even though there is an empty magazine placed in the well of the weapon. We have no live rounds anywhere near it. The bolt is locked forward with no rounds in the chamber, and that's been checked numerous times. So even though the Joe is downrange, there are no live rounds within this weapon, and we're as safe as we can make it given the circumstances of doing a shoot involving firearms.
All right, again, to demonstrate versatility, portability, we took the units into kind of a wooded environment with a member of a SWAT sniper team. And because we were working in a mode that we did not want to show too much environment and thereby locate the picture, I was working mostly long lens, fairly tight to this particular individual. And what we tried to do here was just create a color and an environment of drama and light that did not exist. We basically were out in the woods creating our own studio. We're back here in a nondescript location, which we won't completely describe, because we're going to work with a police officer who's trained in surveillance and SWAT team tactics, and is also a proficient sniper. And the area here establishes an advantage in a situation, a tactical advantage, in that we have high ground and cover. And so that's what we're going to take a look at and try to come up with a realistic portrait of this officer in action if a real operation was going on. And that's what we're going to investigate today. We're going to be using a Elinchrom Quadra. It's very small, very light. The flash heads are half a pound each, and they produce a really good quality of light and a pretty good kick of light, which in a situation like this, where we might be covering a lot of terrain with taking a light from a distance and trying to hit our subject with it, is really advantageous. So this is the pack we're working with today. As you can see, it's pretty light and pretty versatile as opposed to a larger studio unit. And so what we're going to try to do is pump a lot of power into that hillside and see if we can create some backlight, sort of late sun effect with flashes from a distance, which would be harder to do, I think, with small flash. So we're going to use the pop or power of this light to bring up the light level in the background, even though the heads themselves are a fair distance from our subject. So we'll probably use a fair amount of power out of these. These rate at 400 watt seconds, which is a pretty good, overall power rating for something this light. All right, do you need a hand with anything? So as always with the pattern of these, I'm going to start it in A port, where I get the full power out of the pack. Most packs nowadays are set up on an asymmetrical basis, same as this. If I swing this over into B port, I'm going to automatically get roughly 30% of the overall power of the pack. Come out here, you know, every once in a while you get yourself into situations where you really miss the studio. But not really. This is fun. This is kind of where we should be, I think, is trying to make things happen on location with these kinds of little flashes and stuff. That's what they're designed to do. So I'll stuff this up in here. It's probably the wrong place to put it, given me and given what I usually do, but we'll see. What you need to do is throw a dart at the wall and figure out, you know, how colossal your first mistake is. And then you backtrack from that. And if it's only just kind of a minor blooper, it'll probably go fairly smoothly. If it's really huge, you got to re-gear and you got to rethink. As I said, we're working with a police officer who is highly trained in these kinds of situations. This, from what I've been told, is a potentially reasonable tactical position because there's a lot of cover and kind of camouflage and concealment possibilities. So I'm going to ask him to come on over and situate. I'm thinking about over here, officer, right in this area, prone position, aiming right towards me. You know, the photographer as felon, you know, kind of mode. So what we're doing with the Skyport is we're using 2 separate packs and 2 separate heads. And what I'm able to do with the Skyport is swing it to an all position, which means everything fires at once. And if I need to individually test the lights, I swing it back to group, and then I'll select the lights that I have in the various groups. Right now, for ease of use, I have in group 1, and the second flash is in group 4. So I can just rotate this way, that way, done. That means that when I individually relate to these lights via that radio channel, I can incrementally adjust their power independently of each other, which in a situation like this, where you got to tramp through the woods, pretty handy. So that's what we're doing. Cool. So right now I'm going to operate in all mode and see what the combined effect of both of those flashes are right now out here in the woods. Yeah. All right. Cool. Let's see that for a second. So one thing that, you know, you'll notice about pictures like these for drama and that kind of purpose, I tend not to look down on my subject. I try to get eye to eye. So you get that more of an intensity. You're looking down the barrel of the rifle. You're making your subject loom a little bit more importantly in the frame instead of looking up and down, which will minimize the situation. So what I'm going to do is get myself down in this kind of a position, okay, and just do a quick initial test. We got 2 flashes going. Okay. Got the beginnings of something. Lights are a little bit misplaced. Looking a little bit further up than I wanted to. Let me shift up the hill here a little bit. Okay. Cool. Okay. I do want to maintain really limited depth. Let me go back up to 200. Playing with ISO now to control the intensity and the read of the lights because I want to try to maintain a fairly shallow f-stop here for just for purposes of drama. And okay, see what's happening up in here? Let's see if we can kind of redirect that light.
Bring that a little farther back or more downhill?
Maybe more downhill, and actually let's pull it up the hill just even a little bit more so it spreads. All we're doing right now is just testing, so we can just kind of hang and that's better. Yep. Let's bring it about 10 feet down where you had it before, and let's see if we can. Actually, why don't you try to bring it right here by this particular tree, and let's clip it in there, and we'll power it way down.
Okay.
Appreciate your patience. We were sharing observations earlier about the fact that vague similarity between the job of a police officer in this situation and the job of a photographer is that you can wait for hours and hours and hours for about 2 or 3 minutes of out-and-out terror. much less threatening in the case of a photographer, but still, you do prepare an awful lot for stuff that happens in a matter of minutes, and then when that thing does happen, invariably, there's stuff that happens that you're not prepared for. Cool. All right, so here's where we are. So what we got to do is just bring a light right into his eyes. And that's got to be from off camera up in here. So that would be a really tightly gridded 900.
Sure.
Okay. And let's figure that to have actually maybe no warmth at all. I'll go to a cloudy white balance on this. And I'll make the background a little bit warm.
Yep.
And that frontal light then will be mildly warm.
Tight spot grid. As far as maybe I get like a C-stand base for the magic arm.
Sure. Okay.
Okay.
All right. I'm going to keep testing here.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. It's looking good. It's looking good. So what we're doing is getting a third light to light just a small piece of the officer's face. The thing that becomes crucial in a dangerous or difficult situation is information. So that's part of what we're trying to get across here is the ability to observe. So we're going to kind of put a light into the officer's eye over in the, probably coming from camera right, a gridded light, a small flash that's going to trigger manually off of the lights that we already have in place, which are the quadras up the hill. So we'll take a look at that and see. Right now, all I've done so far is light the background. But in this instance, the setting becomes very, very important. So what we're trying to do is make sure that setting is comfortable in terms of light value, and then try to filter selectively a light into the foreground that doesn't disturb the existing pattern of light that we've already created. Now what Drew's going to do is he's going to use the little testing device on that flash to kind of see if we can locate the light. That's the hard part about working with a very tight source or a gridded source, is that A, you don't give your subject a lot of room to move, because if they just vary just a little bit, then they're out of the light. So we take the light and scope it down, and that ensures a certain measure of drama, but it also is very limiting in terms of the range of motion of your subject and the range of motion or you know, the slippage, if you will, of a light, you know, because we're trying to get that light exactly in the right spot. With a small flash, it does not have a model lamp that's particularly effective, so we're going to do some guesswork.
Should be good.
Okay.
We're at an 8th power here to start.
Okay, that's probably going to be a lot, but let's see. Whoa. Yeah. We just put this officer, in terms of observation capability, sort of out of the ball game for a while by blasting a light at him that's 4 stops more than we need. Let's go to 64th. All right. Okay. Let's go to 1/128th, please. I'm going to shift my white balance on my camera to cloudy. I'm going to warm up the whole scene, in particular that foreground light. Better? Okay. We're almost there. Getting there anyway.
Placed all right?
Placement is good. I think it's a little too much light still. So can we do a little gaffer tape surgery on it?
Yep.
So what we're doing is a time-honored thing that's incredibly crude, makeshift and all that sort of jazz. We're going to just stripe the light with some gaffer tape. When you're looking at your object, you know, your subject, you know, if you want to stripe the whole body with light, you're going to turn the flash head or the orientation of that you know, stripe of light so that it is vertical, it matches your subject matter. So it might be minute differences, but we're always looking to see if we can get that kind of an advantage in the field. Matter of 1/10 of an f-stop or a couple of inches this way or that way. As I've always said and say repeatedly, I know it's a game of inches, so you're trying to scope that light to get maximum impact out of it and minimum disturbance, really, so let it kind of filter into the scene without blowing the scene away. That's better. Okay, nice thing is we got a highlight now, kind of an angle of incidence reflection off of the rifle that we're using, so that defines that a little bit better. Now, you gain a few things with lack of depth of field. In other words, you vector interest for your viewer right down to the only piece of the photograph that's going to be sharp, which is presumably the area that you want them to look at. But as always, there's a compromise. When you limit depth of field, you lose detail in other areas of the photograph. Let's see how this looks. Going to start shooting a few frames here. Looks good, looks good. Move a little bit up in here. So obviously I'm using a selective cursor type of arrangement, so my cursor is right on the officer's eye, because that is really the only area of the photograph that's in focus. Okay, Drew, see where this out of focus clump of greenery, it's obscuring my view of the weapon? Yep, there, good, keep going. And a couple of those, that's it. Cool, all right, good, better. Whole thing looks just a touch hot for some reason right now. Might have picked up a little ambient light at f2. You have to be really careful, just exposure wise, because you're right on the edge of what will or won't work. All right, let me go this way. All right, I'm just a little concerned that the light's too side lit. Let's bump, I went down a stop, so let's bump that just maybe 2/3 of a stop, please, Drew. Okay, take a look. Cool. Yeah, that's better. Lost a little of my background when I made that adjustment, so background is group 4. I'm going to shift to group 4, put one more stop into that light, back. The nice thing about the system is we're able to adjust like that on the fly. Cool. Good, here we go. So look too a little flared in this area here.
Tiny bit.
Tiny bit. I think it's the background light, just a touch. I'm gonna just
The one right there?
yeah. I'm gonna just take my angle up just a little bit.
Okay.
All right, let's try this again. Okay, here we go. Yeah, that's much better. Cool. Let's just put like another 2/3 into that, or maybe just angle it down. Could you just? All right. All right, that's better. I'm just concerned about the depth of field thing is way cool, but you're not seeing any definition to the weapon really.
Yeah.
It's kind of an out of focus. All right, so let's do this. So what we're doing here is we're just playing now with depth of field and seeing how much or how little of things we need to have to rivet focus, but also retain some measure of detail in the overall scene. Let's give this a try. That's better. The quadras are lighting the scene basically, and the foreground light here, which is the small flash, is just an accent light for the eye. So let's keep taking a look here, keep playing with it. All right, so we just playing time here, time game, because here's the game you play on location. You're always playing that game of, time, light, how much freewheeling you can do while the light is going down. So that's where we are now. We want to get this portrait done and done really well. So I think we're going to have to make tracks to start to do that. So essentially what we're trying to do is maybe what was bothering me about the first photograph was that it was so tight. It was cool, it was drama filled, but it was so tight we were lacking environment. So what we're going to do is change gears now and establish a little more environment and see what happens there, which is going to be another challenge lighting wise. We're still going to do a rim light type of a thing, but the They're going to have to be a bit of a distance now because I'm going to widen the frame out. That's where the power of the quadra will come in handy, because we may have to ramp those puppies up to like 400. So we'll see. We'll see. You know, where it brings us. Let's start off there and see if we can use these branches as design elements, unless it's too distracting. If it is too distracting, we'll just all fall down the hill and do it down there.
Do you think those are going to be, that's going to be edgy enough from way down there?
We'll see. It should have a good edge by the time it travels that distance.
Yeah.
You know, so we'll see. Okay, so maybe, yeah, this is kind of drama, you know, kind of a strong rimlet portrait. So let me just get a couple of tests done here and we'll see how we do with it.
Do you want rifles up or just posing or
I think rifle maybe off to the side, because if I have it right where it is, I'm going to lose it against all the black. Okay, let's see how that does. Okay. Okay. Drew, could you check that low light? Sorry. And see if you can pan it or tilt it upwards a little bit so it catches more of the trees and less of the ground. Thank you. This is where the sun going down is actually helping us. We're in a bit of a race with it, but it's actually the muted light is giving me a little more control. Cool. Here we go. Good. Eyes are out of camera. Cool. What I'm doing is I'm waiting on that last unit there. So we're just checking out setting. There's a couple of different settings on these flashes. You can go into a fast recycle or a slow recycle. Slow recycle, of course, conserves battery power and elongates your field life, but you know, we're not going to be out here all night, or at least we haven't told our subject that we're going to be out here all night, which we actually are, but you never tell your subject that when you're going out in the field with them. You always tell them it's going to be fun, it's going to be quick, it's going to be easy, all those things that you know are not true. Kidding. We're on only... Yeah, yes, yeah. We shouldn't do that in this instance because, you know, clearly it's very clear here who has the upper hand. Hey, nice. So let's get a little bit of a longer lens, and can we get a more of an aggressive stance if, like, for instance, the camera's the bad guy? Okay. So what we might have to do is adjust that light. Shoot. Okay. Cool. Okay. All right, we're getting there. All right. Did I get that background? Did I get that one? Doesn't look like it.
Again?
Is that perhaps dead down there? Hang on. Let's just do this just for a sec. Hang on. Let me just come in tighter. Maybe I don't completely need it. Actually, Drew, could I get the 200 f2, please? One of the things about being in the field is you never get happy. You never get complacent. I keep trying things, even if I think things are working. I just keep playing with stuff because it's important that you experiment and you don't lose that potential edge. There might be a good photograph lingering someplace where you're not completely aware of it. We're working tighter now, so it's time, Drew, in the interest of keeping things simple here, can we draw that light up the hill? Let's just clip it to this branch right here, and we'll just do a backlight. We'll have to power that light down considerably. Yep, maybe underneath the bigger section. If you could hang your position there, because the light's pretty specific right now. Okay, let's just see how we did here. Test that. Okay, that's about where it should be. Maybe let's just take like a third of a stop out of it, please. Okay. Now, do we get all the other lights going? Let's try.
Leave a message. I'll call her in a little bit.
Cool. How we doing? What do you think about that?
That's great. That's really nice.
Let me go to my 70 to 200 again. I got a few of these. Looking very good. It's looking very good. I just want to see if we can finish off strong and get a little more into that weapon. Thanks. Thank you. The 200 F2 is a hunk of glass. The 70 to 200, obviously, slower, very sharp, gives me more versatility. I'm going to play again with my ISO. 1 stop, 2 stops. Let's go with, oh my God, 3 stops. So we're going to go to ISO 800, which means I'm going to go from F2 to F2.8 to F4 to F5.6 as a starting point. Reason being, ascending through the f-stop scale, we're going to pick up a little depth and maybe a little definition in the rifle. Black on black on black in the middle of the forest. Okay, let's see how we do. Stick with it. Okay, pan the light a little bit right. Right there. Hang on.
The last time this didn't go,
Yep.
you missed 2 frames.
Okay, let's just get a couple more. Great look. Stick with it right there in that position. Good. Cool. All right, we're done. We got it. Looks good. Basically, we lit the whole forest with quadras. Lit our subject, lit the background. The background was actually, in some ways, as always, really, and just as crucial as the foreground. Needed to bring some depth into the picture, a little bit of light, a little bit of warmth. We've got almost, no ambient light left out here, so it's all flash. And we lit a big swatch of trees and whatnot with a couple of small battery-operated, power packs that can fit inside a lunch pail, So that, to me, is interesting stuff to start to experiment with, both the ramping up of the power beyond hot shoe flash, and then also the ability to take these units and mix them with small flash to create a more elaborate scenario than you might have been able to with just a couple of hot shoe flashes in your bag. So it's an interesting place to be, and we got a pretty good frame out of it. Really happy. Our subject is super and extremely experienced, police officer, and he's really been patient with us, so my thanks go out to him.